And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, Rowdies fans, and hello to RBLR Sports listeners. My name is James Knowles. I'm here with my pal Leo. We are talking about the Rowdies. And Leo, tell me, how are you doing right now?
Right now, I'm doing great. As far as soccer-wise, we've seen two great Euro games today, both of which, just blew my mind. But on Friday night, I was doing even better. We've seen the Rowdies get back to winning ways. Tough 1-0 win, but, 3 points is 3 points, and I'll take it any day.
Exactly. I will take that any day. So, yeah, as you said, the Rowdies won 1-0. We were away to Hartford, and I think that's a great result. Right now, I had a 2-0 prediction as a loss, actually, against the game or against Hartford. So I was luckily wrong, and I will definitely take that on the night. What did you predict, Leo?
I predicted 2-2 draw, and although I predicted to get at least 1 point, I'm happy we got the full 3 points. So I don't mind being wrong, just like you, James.
Yeah, so we actually both got it wrong, but in the end, that's great for both of us.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move into the game now that we've got our wrong predictions out of the way here. Leo, tell us how we were looking at the start.
So at the our starting lineup, everything was the same except we seen Connor Antley given a little bit of rest. Sebastian Dahlgaard took his place, and we seen the change up front. Jordan Adebayo-Smith wasn't really firing on all cylinders, so we replaced him with Dayon Harris, who, as we know, almost salvaged a point for the Rowdies last time out. So he got his first start up top. But one thing I was more concerned about was the bench. Usually teams are allowed 7 subs on the bench, but we only have 5. And the two noticeable people that weren't there was Lawrence White and Jan Ekra. So they may be down to injuries. I'm not sure yet, but that's what caught my eye in the starting 11.
Yeah, afterwards they said, obviously, we only had the 4 outfield subs, and only 3 of those ultimately came onto the field. So it was kind of limited in the amount of options that we had to put in any one position. Luckily, the regular starters that we've had since the beginning of the season, other than Steven Dos Santos, are available. So, that helped us out, and it got us into a pretty good game here.
It did, yeah. And, you should never, diss the Rowdies after winning a game. Although it was a hard-fought 1-0 win, we do know that this was an important road win for the Rowdies. And the reason why it was important is because they haven't been in the best form lately, and also they're playing against a tough Hartford team. This team, they played less games than the Rowdies, but they've also been in pretty good form themselves. They were playing the Rowdies at a good time because they were in good form, like I said. But we won on the road. And watching that game, those fans from Hartford, it looked like a pretty busy stadium, a busy crowd. So that just makes it, twice as hard for the Rowdies to get some kind of a result there. But they did, and I just hope that this can boost their confidence moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. You're coming off of a tough little spell for what is a very high-level team in the USL Championship. The Rowdies won all of their first 5 games, and then they go on and they lose 2 out of 3. It can be kind of something of a shock when that happens, and that doesn't stay outside of the locker room. Unfortunately, it might be something that gets into the players' heads. I think that this was a bit of an indication that it really hasn't gotten that far. They are not too worried right now, but we'll see more as the rest of the season goes by, if this was a blip or if this was something that actually was a bit more of a structural concern that the Rowdies need to address. The boost in confidence factor, though, is definitely important. That was something that Neil Collins and I talked about in the post-game press conference, and he definitely notes that when you get back after a tough loss like that, it's a good way to feel like, okay, the sky isn't falling.
I agree, and like you said, only time will tell if the Rowdies aren't really affected by their shaky form, but they got the win. That's all that matters. And then another thing that we've seen this new kind of Rowdies that played on Saturday night. Usually the Rowdies love to dominate on possession. They like to be the team that has most of the ball, creating most of the chances. We don't really see them sitting back unless they're holding a 1-goal lead in the last 10 minutes, and then we see them sit back. But literally from the first whistle to the last, Well, this should just tell you everything. Hartford has 63% of the possession compared to the Rowdies, who only had 37% possession. So from the first minute, we seen that the Rowdies were, they came out with the game plan of sitting back and they're going to let Hartford, have more time on the ball than the Rowdies. And, Rowdies had to adapt to not being that dominant team. So, but they took advantage, whether it was a counter or there were short spells that had a possession. We seen a good link-up play, good side-to-side play. Like everyone seemed to be on the same page, and they just seemed pretty happy with just sitting back and getting the ball whenever they could, just by sticking to the fundamentals and really approaching this game in a very professional and basic approach, just by, like I said, just defending well and taking advantage of on the ball whenever you had the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and whether or not this comes down to the players that he had available to put in the positions that he usually likes to line up in, or if this was something that he decided that he wanted to do based on the way Hartford plays, I don't know that specifically, but the ultimate result was, as you said, it was, a very good defensive unit. I think that Forrest Lasso had a good bounce back game for himself after what was probably the worst game of his season, which, he's setting a very high bar. So the worst game still isn't going to be terrible by any means, but to come back after that and to show that, you can still handle yourself very well. You can cut off the players who are going to be the biggest attackers for the opponent, and you can communicate effectively with the players in front of you and the players to your right and left, Jordan Scarlett and Aaron Guillen, respectively. I think that that's really good for all of them. Aaron Guillen also still, he is a player that we've seen a couple times this season make a game-saving play on the goal line, and he's the last player there to knock it off. This wasn't the first time that we've seen it, and this game against Hartford, I'm assuming, will also not be the last time, but it's very good when they are all able to step up to that level, and I think that they did that well. We had the players that we did on the field, so Dayon Harris was up top, as we mentioned, and is it the case that Dayon Harris was not comfortable enough in possession or holding up the ball the way that Duba does when he's actually out on the field, that we could use him to that effect? I'm not entirely sure. He's more of a dribbler than someone who's very good with his back to goal. So putting him up top, maybe that was the idea. It's not the best option to try to possess the ball and build up that way. Maybe it's best to catch them on the counter, as we were talking about. But either way, it did ultimately come out in the end and get us the 3 points, which is the goal of every game.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I did not think of that, of what you're talking about, of Dayon Harris. No, I did not think that Rowdies would approach this game in a counter-attacking manner, because we all know that Dayon Harris is full of pace. He dribbles well on the ball. So, and we've seen throughout the game where he would drift out wide instead of staying more central. He would link up with Dalgard, or, he would wait for Guenzade to get runs in the boxes so he could cross the ball, or even wait for Dalgard to get further down the line so he could give it to Dalgard and he could deliver across. So I didn't notice that. But credits to Neil Collins. He noticed he learned how to use Dayon Harris to his own advantage. So credit to Dayon Harris. And I want to go back to what you're saying about Forrest Lasso, how he bounced back. He actually bounced back halfway through this game. We had that early scare between Lasso and Evan Louro where we think that, because we've seen it the entire time, throughout the majority of the season, where Lasso passes it back to Evan Louro, and Louro picks up a pass from there. But this time he passes it back, and man, that could have been an embarrassing moment for Lasso, Louro, and this Rowdies team. As he passes it back, he passed a little bit too hard and almost went into his own net, only for Louro to make a last ditch tackle to clear the ball out. But man, the Rowdies could have been in all sorts of trouble. But credit to Forrest Lasso for not letting that affect him throughout the game. He picked his head up, he noticed his mistake, and he learned from it, and he controlled that back line very well for most of the game.
Yeah, he did. And as you said, that was a mistake that should never happen. It's ultimately something that we saw even today, though, at the highest level, with Spain almost shooting themselves in the foot against Croatia and putting it in their own net. Luckily, for the Rowdies' sake, it was the case that Evan Louro was able to get back, unlike the Spanish goalkeeper today. Mm-hmm. But, it just goes to show you that if it is something that happens at the highest level, happening at the USL Championship and getting away with it. That's pretty good. I think, though, that regardless of that one bad almost own goal, the Rowdies really looked comfortable when they had the ball for the short amount of times that we are referring to. They were the lower end of the possession, but when they did have it, they still played pretty well with it, and that's good to see that they can handle themselves under that position. Because if you can put yourself in the types of positions on the field where you're going to be able to take advantage of the team that mostly has the possession, because they have put themselves, all in your half, and you have a lot of space behind them, or however you want to counter when they have lost the ball, then you can get a lot of chances to try and break through when they are all set up on the wrong side of the field. I think that was something that came into play here, because the side-to-side play that the Rowdies usually approach the game with, going from one end on the fullback and then going across the back line or through the midfield to the other fullback and trying to move it up each wing and, just keep probing on either side, trying to see which one will work. That ultimately came to good effect. We had some very good chances coming through Sebastian Dahlgaard there.
Yeah, we really did. And it just continues to hurt teams when we just switch it side to side, because before Dahlgaard got the ball on that first goal and the only goal of the game, the ball was on Leo Fernandez's side, and we seen a couple of dummy runs. We seen Aaron Guillen make a run down that left flank, and he attracts the defender to go further towards that side of the field. And then we see it might have been Zach Steinberger or Jordan Doherty who makes another run in the box, and that attracts another defender to go that side of the field. So Leo Fernandez drops it back, switches it to Dahlgaard, and he's through on a 1v1 situation. And as we've seen, he completely danced around that defender, the defender was lucky enough to stay on his feet and not slip on the floor. He almost did, but he got very lucky to stay on his feet, and Dahlgaard just took advantage of that 1v1 situation, as he usually does. And, he puts a cross in the box, and although it's not meant for Guenzati, he stays alert. He knows that the play is not dead as long as the ball is near him or in the penalty area. He knows that the play is not dead, so he stays alert, stays aware, and a rebound comes to him, and, a one-touch finish in the 6-yard box. Although it looks easy, I'm pretty sure it's not, because you have to stay aware the entire time. You have to follow the ball the entire time. And the rebound could be anywhere in the air, whether it could be in the air, on the ground, it could be near your knee, your chest, but you just have to stay aware, and that's exactly what he did. And he put the Rowdies up halfway through that first half for his 7th goal of the season. And, it just really shows that the Rowdies, they knew what the game plan was. The short amount of possession time they had, switch the ball, put crosses in the box, and, who else but Sebastian Guenzati to put the Rowdies up top?
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to mention about this chance that was created, it's not the only time that we saw Sebastian Dahlgaard do that. There was actually a play a couple minutes beforehand where Sebastian Dahlgaard was able to beat this defender in the same kind of setup and get it across, and it fell to Leo Fernandez first, like happened on the goal. But the first time it didn't quite work out and they cleared the ball. The second time when Leo got on the ball, it ultimately fell to Seba, like you said, and he was able to do a real poacher's goal in there. Something that my coaches growing up also always used to say it was something that you could never really teach. It was just instinct that a good striker knows where to be in that position, and that was definitely the case with Seba. But yeah, I think that we were seeing some success. It's been the case that, a lot of teams have kind of seen where the Rowdies are going to try and work it up the wings, and they're going to see how much Connor Antley or Sebastian Dahlgaard on the right, or Leo Fernandez, and often also Sebastian Dahlgaard on the left can get up and then try and get a cross in to somebody. And, when you have Duba up top, he's 6'4", it's easier for him to get on ahead than it is for Sebastian Guenzati. But sometimes the other thing that you can do is you can keep it low and you can try and find somebody, get a deflection there. And even though it wasn't on a low ball that led to the deflection where Seba scored, it is the case that, that is another option. And I think that we see more of the looping balls in from Dahlgaard and more of the lower balls in from Antley and Fernandez. But it's good to have multiple options. And the other thing that I would like to see maybe possibly going forward is a little bit more of a late runner. That's something that we'll get to again. later in this episode. But I think that one thing the Rowdies might be lacking a little bit is a late run to get onto those crosses, because it's a fundamental part of what we do in a lot of these games, as evidenced by so many of our goals. We would definitely do well off, I think, to have a bigger number of people coming into these crosses late on the run.
I didn't even think of that, but I totally agree with you, James. Now that I think about it, I have seen a lot of chances where there are crosses in the box and it just goes through everybody. But if there was a late runner, they had the opportunity to put the ball back in for a cross or score, score just making off that late run. And we've seen an example one time. It was the first game back at home. I forgot who we played against. It was first game back at home, and Leo Fernandez puts in a cross, and then we see Connor Anley making that late run. He puts the ball back in the center for Sebastian Guizzardi to score. I think you were at that game. But if we have a late runner like that every single time, that just gives us more opportunities to score goals. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because I didn't even think about that.
Well, the other option that sticks out to me is the last game that we lost, unfortunately. There was a big chance before we went down 1-0. If you watch the highlights again, one of the first things that you'll see is, I believe it was Lawrence Wyke who was making the late run. If it wasn't, it was probably Lewis Hilton. But Connor Antley went down the right wing, and he did his thing where he usually put the ball back across the box, kept it low, real daisy cutter, and it was, like I said, the late midfielder coming in who ultimately showed up to get a good shot off, and it beat their goalkeeper, but it was actually the center back, Mikael Williams, who was there to save it. So, it's something to consider. But like I said, we'll get back to that later in the episode when we talk about, more players' individual performances and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I want to mention that quickly. Before that Guizzardi goal, we seen a goal ruled out on Forrest Lasso. There was a corner, and it was a lovely cross by Lewis Hilton, as he always does on set pieces and especially corner kicks. Forrest Lasso gets a header to it, and it goes in, but a foul's called on him. I'm not really sure what that foul is, I feel like both players had their hands on each other. Both players were fighting for the ball. And so I didn't really understand that call. I thought it was the tussle between the two players was fair. They're both going at it, and I think that goal should have stood. So, Lasso should have had a goal for his team and also against his team. He would have had a brace of the day. But, the referee didn't call it, and that's just the way it is. And also, later in the game, in the second half, there was another goal ruled out for the Rowdies. This time it was Leo Fernandez putting in a cross, and Daron Harris finishing it at the end of that cross. And supposedly he was in the offsides position, but we didn't get no good angles to look at from the broadcast or anything like that. We didn't get no good angles, but I feel like it was really tight. And we know in soccer when if an offsides call is too tough to make, the advantage goes to the attacker. So again, I don't know why that goal was ruled offsides. It looked like he timed his run good. At least not. He might have timed his run perfectly, but I don't see that being ruled off for offsides. But again, the AR must have a better view than I did, so I can't really play the air on that. But that's just my view on it. Yeah.
Well, funny enough, we brought this up also in the press conference. It was actually another guy who got to ask the question before I did. But one thing that Neil Collins said was, this is a difficult environment, obviously, to play on. It's a turf field that we don't usually do. But in addition to, the physical settings that we're coming into, there were some decisions that really went against us that, he kind of found inexplicable. The call against Lasso in the first half, something that you just brought up. Neil Collins, his quote was, "I can't see the foul." I'm not entirely sure, where that was. And with Dayon Harris's goal, as you said, we really didn't see an angle that would have shown that he was or was not offside. I can't tell. So if the assistant referee says that, fair enough. But Neil Collins also did seem to take issue with that. And I think that Collins is going to look at that chance that Harris had to score and ultimately count it in his book as a plus side for Harris moving forward, because it's still good to get on the end of it and put it in the back of the net. And if you ultimately are called off for something that's as dubious as that goal seemed to be, then, it's good. It's going to stand up on your positive side for the games that are moving forward. And then the other big call that Neil Collins had a problem with was Aaron Guillen giving away a penalty. Yeah. He said that was very weak. And, when I watched it, I felt the same thing. I don't know about you, Leo, but that was not what I would have called a penalty at any point in my life.
I have to disagree with you on that one. I think that
Okay.
Aaron did arrive late. Although I do think the Hartford player was looking for the foul. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that Aaron Guillen's rushing in. He's coming in with full momentum. All the player had to do was just touch the ball before Aaron Guillen, and he could just make the most out of it. That's exactly what he did. Although it was that's a perfect example of what he calls soft penalty. It's soft, but it still is a penalty. So maybe something for Aaron Guillen to look forward to. Maybe in a different game, it's not called, but it's 50-50. You either call it, it's a penalty. If you don't, okay, it's not a penalty. So, but to me, I think the referee made the right call. But if he didn't call it, I would have been okay with it too. So, in my opinion, it was a soft penalty, but there was contact, so I do think it was a penalty. But it didn't even matter because, as I mentioned here in our notes, another reason why the Rowdies won is because Hartford were not clinical at all in their chances, and on that penalty, like everyone knows the penalties, the advantage goes to the person taking the penalty. And Evan Louro dove the right way, but he didn't even have to make a save because that ball just went straight to the UFOs that the Pentagon released a report recently. So I don't know what I believe it was Oregon who shot that. I don't know what he was thinking on that, but good for the Rowdies though that Hartford weren't as clinical or firing on all cylinders on that game.
Yeah, with what you said for Aaron Guillen, ultimately it is the case when you're a defender that you got to put yourself in good positions because when you are the one defending, it's going to be a lot harder to, say that you weren't in the wrong if the referee has already called it. There are some referees who are going to call everything. There are some referees that won't call anything. And, that even changes for individual referees on the night that they're out. So you got to put yourself in good positions and try to be as safe as you can about things. As you said, though, luckily, it really didn't matter. I saw the penalty, and my notes afterward were Obregon shoots it high, and I think I put about 50 eyes in there. So it was going, and it was absolutely gone from the field.
And just his reaction, like he didn't have his head down. He just smiled. Like you could tell he was like, "What the hell did I just do?" Like if he had that chance back, he would. But thank God he didn't have that chance back. And it wasn't just that. There were a couple of times, maybe a few times, where Hartford they were sending long balls. It wasn't really times where they had possession that was giving them the best chances. It was when Rowdies had possession, and then Hartford took away the ball, and they just sent long balls over the back line, and it really did cause trouble for them. We've seen 1v1 situations 2 times between a Hartford attacker and Evan Louro. Luckily one of them was cut off the line by Aaron Guillen, as you mentioned earlier. It's not the first time he did it. Then the second time, we've seen a long ball played to a Hartford player, and then he plays an other player inside, and he's 1v1 again, but his shot, just like the penalty, goes over the goal. So, luckily for the Rowdies, like I said, the Hartford was not clinical with their chances. And also, I feel like Neil Collins is going to look at how easy it was to beat that back line just with simple through balls and long balls. As, it has been for a couple, more than a couple, actually a few weeks now that long balls and through balls have been hurting this back line.
Yeah, there's many ways to skin a cat, as the terrible saying goes. But, there are a lot of ways that people are going to be trying to look to beat the Rowdies. And if one thing doesn't work one week, it might work the next week. Or you might try something else the next week. And it seemed to be that there have been a couple of coaches so far this year that have found ways to really get some good chances. And, as a defender, you've got to try to be ready for all of them, which makes it very difficult. But, we also have a pretty tall back line and a goalkeeper who loves to be proactive and go and shut things down before they become a really big problem for him. So that's something that I think that they can probably work on for the future, particularly long balls over the defense. But definitely something to keep an eye out for when we have teams that are willing to do that and, send their attackers chasing after the ball.
James, when I see Evan Louro play, it reminds me of Manuel Neuer. The way he just likes playing that sweeper-keeper role. Just, he's good with the ball at his feet. He likes coming out, rushing out at attackers, and most of the time he gets it right. He makes good saves, coming out far of his box. When he has the ball at his feet, he makes good long passes. So I would say he's a USL Manuel Neuer.
I like that. The Rowdies have a very good track record of goalkeepers in the past. Matt Pickens was a famous goalkeeper here for a little bit, and then he went on to MLS. And another one is Jeff Attinella. Jeff Attinella is actually a local boy from, I believe, Clearwater, and he ended up playing for the Rowdies before he moved on to MLS. I think that Evan Louro, as much as I'd love to keep him, he might be the next one down that path because he is just so good at getting those angles right and being the person who's in the right spot at the right time.
I agree. And although it will be sad for Rowdies fans, at the same time, we have to be happy for him because, he's done excellent service with the Rowdies. And, it's totally hypothetical, but if it does happen, I'm pretty sure all Rowdies fans will wish him the best. But, moving forward, we talked about how this win boosts the Rowdies' confidence. Is that what you think this win means for the Rowdies, James, or does it also mean something else for them?
Well, I definitely think that, the boost in confidence factor is pretty important. I think that one of the biggest things that I saw to this end was actually on the Rowdies social media feed. I saw it on Twitter. I'm assuming it was also on Facebook and Instagram, but there was a picture of all the players on the bus home.
Oh, yeah.
And big smiles all around, big smiles on every player there. And I think that, that really speaks to it. You don't take a team photo after a game when you lose. Because, everybody knows what the faces are going to be like there. It's not going to be a lot of big smiles. It's not going to be a lot of good cheer. I think that when you can get that and the impact on your attitude going forward, every time that you mess up, you kind of get in your head. It doesn't matter if it's soccer or if it's writing something for school or if you are doing any other professional work. If you mess up, you're going to second guess yourself sometimes, and it's closer to the time that you have messed up that you will remember it. So if you put that behind you by getting a win, that really shoves that farther and farther away, and then you're not second guessing yourself when you go to do the next thing on the play that you're in where you messed up the first time. That's going to be something that you will be able to. How to do it, and you're confident that you are going to do it correctly. That's the mindset that you need to be in, and when you're winning, that's the only mindset that you're going to have.
I agree. I think this does boost your confidence, and also, the mentality part of the game, which probably isn't spoken as much, but it is crucial. Especially for players like Dayon Harris or Jordan Adebayo-Smith, who, Dayon Harris is itching to get on the field. Jordan Adebayo-Smith has been on the field, but hasn't really performing, at his best. So maybe this win affects everybody in their own ways. But another thing I would say that this win means for the Rowdies is that because we've seen them lose against teams who are lower ranked in their division, and maybe teams like Hartford, or we've seen that loss to Pittsburgh, who are thinking that we could catch up to the Rowdies now. They're in a weak form. We know how to play them now. But this win, against like I said, a tough opponent. Who's on a good run, who has good form right now. I would say that this win means for them that to remind everybody that we're still the same Rowdies that opened the season 5-0. We're still the same Rowdies that you should fear. We're still the same Rowdies that teams want to beat us because we're the best right now in their league. So I think this regains their confidence and also their just their morale overall within the players of forget that. Small, shaky, dip in form, whatever you want to call it. Forget about all that. We're still this team that is on first place in our division and first place in the Eastern Conference for a reason. So for me, that's why I think this what it means for the Rowdies.
Yeah, that's fair. And with that statement out of the way, our next question, I believe, would be: is this something that you think we can continue to do? Can we possibly go on another winning run after this game?
I would think so, but. It comes down to a lot of factors. Will the Rowdies again defend from the first minute to the last, or will they, see that if they could get a goal like the goal on Guinzotti did, and 5 minutes to have possession every now and then, can they get more goals doing that for a full 90 minutes, being the most dominant team? But they still have the quality to get goals. We've seen Jordan Doherty play a good game. We've seen Lewis Hilton play another good game. Dalgar looks back to how he was most of last season. Leo Fernandez is kind of quiet, but when you need him, he's there to deliver. And of course, you have Sebastian Gonzalez, who's the main man, the man in form. So this will definitely help them believe that they could go on another winning run. Make up for those points that were lost in the last two games, and then those two losses they had earlier. So it's possible. I do think they have a really good chance of going on another winning run after this 1-0 victory over Hartford Athletic.
Yeah, I think that's a reasoned response to that. But if you're talking about the defensive approach that we saw in this past game, do you then think that that's something that they're going to continue to employ? And is this something that they can keep using, like something that will be effective against our future opponents?
I would say for teams, I would think it will work until if you get players like Duba back, or even players who know the system like Lucky Makosana, Juan Tejada. If you get those players back, then you could go away from that defensive approach, because now you have players who know the system. You have players who have chemistry with other players in the team. So, but for now, I just feel like Neil Collins is gonna grind out results until he gets players who he knows can play the way that he wants them to play. We know, and it's not anything it's not like a sly or a diss to Deion Harris or Jordan DeBow-Smith or Matt Serbell or anything like that. It's just, they're new, they're still learning the system, and they're with a team that's, in first place for a reason, because they have a system that works. And if those players aren't caught up to speed yet, although it looks like they're almost there, it's not really their fault. It's going to take time. The Rowdies fans has to be patient. Neil Collins has to be patient. I'm pretty sure he is. So until we get those, those players that know the system back, I think continuing that defensive approach is the safest option, because I know Neil Collins won't change his formation or anything like that. As much as I would like him to, I feel like he won't. He's just going to stay the way that he is, and it's working so far. So like I said, this defensive approach is, I think for Neil Collins, he knows in his head that it's a safe approach to win games, or at least get a point. Yeah,
I tend to agree with that personally, but so you're saying this is probably is this something that you're saying we're seeing like a bit more of a change overall in maybe the Rowdies' philosophy for the season, or are you thinking right now that this is just kind of an adaptation that we're using to get past this bad injury spurt, which the Rowdies are clearly going through? We're down 3 strikers. We're down, at least 2-3 midfielders. Is this something that we're just trying to get past right now and using this to do it?
Yeah, I think it's more of a, like I said, a learning to adapt, because let's be honest, when Duba comes back, Tejada and Makosana, when Lawrence White gets fit again, Jan Ekra comes back, we're gonna see, there's too many types of players and too many players who have a lot of chemistry within each other to just sit back a game. They're going to want to showcase their talent. They're going to want to showcase their skills. They're going to want to let other teams know that, we're here to dominate. We're here to score more goals than you any day, even if it's by, we could score 2 more goals than you, 3 more goals than you, 4 more goals than you. So, when you have that set of players all fit, you don't get those players just to sit back. You want to be the team attacking the majority of the game, having possession the majority of the game. But for now, he doesn't really have those players. He's right now he has players who are new, still learning the system, so he's playing it safe. So I think right now it's just adapting, but it's not really an identity change for Neil Collins.
Okay, yeah, I think that I can probably agree with that too. I think that a big part of the Rowdies' success in the first part of the season was Duba, and Steven Dos Santos up top is just such a big force. It's something that you gotta, as a defender, you always have to remember what he is capable of, because he can score on you multiple different ways, and he can improve any given play on the field in multiple different ways. So if we can find a way to get past this little stretch that I think we're in, I think that is important. And, to that end, we have seen a lot of players coming in and out up top, because there are the injuries up there that we've referred to. But we've also seen a lot of players coming in and out in the middle. There has been a lot of interplay where Jan Ekra would come in to partner with Lawrence White. And starting the season, we had a lot of Lawrence White and Lewis Hilton. And Jordan Doherty has been stepping in and out of the midfield. And he also apparently has been playing some center defense because he, stepped back there a little bit. And Lawrence White did as well for, portions of this season so far. Is that something that is important to you? Like, what do you want to see in your midfield to step in front of Forrest Lasso and Jordan Scarlett and Aaron Guillen? What is the best lineup?
Yeah, this is a similar question that we got on Twitter from @Davey from Tampa. He asked, like you said, we had some knocks this week. He asked that. Fortunately, we had knocks this week with no timeline on when White and Erica will return. If sidelined this weekend, who do you think has a chance to step up this week against Charleston? David personally thinks that Doherty might be a guy who would, get a chance to be in a starting lineup again. For me, I will agree with him because, Jordan Doherty has been playing really good alongside Lewis Hilton. They seem to understand the roles, and they were here last season, so they know how each other play, how they like to play, who defends, who attacks, when to both attack and when to both defend. So they have a good chemistry going on. So I would go with as much as I like Lawrence White, and as much as he runs his butt off all game. He's up and down, box to box, makes those saves to stop a counterattack, and also provides that extra run in the box, provides that extra threat in the box. As much as I like Lawrence White, he's still new, he's still learning the system, but it's just the way Jordan Doherty is playing right now. I just can't see how you take him off. He's the way he's playing is just he makes extra runs in the boxes. He just loves going side to side. He loves putting constant pressure, taking away the ball, and he's always there. He's always in the position where Lewis Hilton needs him, whether it's a simple 6-yard pass or a long pass or, a simple through ball. Jordan Doherty is always there where Lewis Hilton needs him and vice versa. So I think for right now, considering all midfielders are fit, I would start Doherty and Lewis Hilton. But specifically for this weekend, as asked by David, I would go again and start with Doherty and Lewis Hilton.
Yeah, I really appreciate this question, actually, because like you said, it led right into something that we were already talking about. There has been so much chopping and changing, especially in the midfield, that we have to kind of figure out what is the best option here. And the other thing that I look at with this is how does another team play? So when we are playing Miami, what we have seen so far is that they love to press our midfield and our defenders when they have the ball. They love to put them under pressure and try and see if they can get them to cough up the ball in a very advantageous position for them. So, at the top of the 18-yard box, and then maybe they'll get a shot off right there, something like that. Charleston is the team that we're playing next, and Hartford is the team that we played this last game. I think that they are a little bit more similar in how frequently and with how much speed they press when our players have the ball deeper in our own half. I think that is really good for Jordan Doherty's game because he is a player that, not that he necessarily has a ton of problems when he's put under pressure, but I think that he has a lot more. I think that he's a lot more effective when he is going to have time on the ball to pick a long pass. He can take a little run up and he can put it right in between two defenders where our guy is going to be running right behind them. I think that really plays to his strength, whereas Lewis Hilton, I might say, is a bit more of a bulldog. He has a lot more. Plays broken up, is what I'm trying to say. He has a lot more interceptions and tackles and that kind of stuff. So I think that his ability to find a long ball is similar to Jordan Doherty's. I just think that their ability to do that in different times, different amounts of time, is the thing that kind of separates them here. And if we're playing against Charleston, a team that might be a little bit more sitting back than Miami, who will be another opponent coming up for us here, we're going to have a little bit more success with him. And I agree with you that Jordan Doherty is really playing well. He's created a lot of chances recently, and when he's able to, like I said, take his time, pick out a good pass, he's going to continue to do that. So I like him up there, and if you've got someone else who can play off him and, maybe do that role where they're tough tackling and not letting anybody by them, Lewis Hilton, Lawrence White, they're probably one of the options that I would go with there. But yeah, that's what I would say for the midfield anyway. Now, if we move forward a little bit, another player that I'd like to talk about for his individual game is Dayon Harris. He had played on the right wing, and he has now played at striker for the Rowdies. Do you think that he is as good up top? Do you think that he should be placed farther back, maybe even in a right wing back role, where he played a little bit in a substitution role? What do you think for Dayon Harris moving forward here?
I think if you have a whole team fit, considering all your strikers are back, the right wing back role or the right wing role for Dayon Harris is the best fit for him. Because I feel like when you have the whole team there, you're not gonna want to take a defensive approach to this game. You're not going to want to counterattack as much. However, if you want a game plan where you're going to counter, then Dayon Harris is your guy to go as a striker because he has that pace, he has that dribbling. Just send him on a through ball and he'll get to it. He could dribble past defenders, make a good pass inside the box, maybe to Sebastian Guazzati or someone else. So to me, it all depends. But we've seen him best, not this game, but the last game, that defeat to Pittsburgh, where he would get that assist to Sebastian Guazzati, and then he almost got a goal for himself. Because he likes to he likes to start on the outside and work his way inside the box, whether it's to make a pass or a shot. I think that's his game. If you centralize it more, or limit his creativity and dribbling potential, then you're not going to see the same Dayon Harris you get when he's usually on the wing. So for me, although it seems like Neil Collins kind of needs him as a striker right now, if a whole team's fit, I would prefer him. I would prefer Dayon Harris to be placed back on the right wing role.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much right. At least from what I've seen too, he does seem to be a player who likes to take people at the dribble, and the way that he does it, he starts out wide and he just picks up some steam as he moves into all of the defenders that are going to be taking him on. So he might beat one and he picks up a little more speed, beats another and he picks up a little more speed. And that's how Seba Guazzati got the goal late last week in our loss. Now, Dayon Harris was, he still had his chances here. And as we mentioned earlier, there were times when he was combining with Sebastian Dalgaard out on the right wing. And it was ultimately Sebastian Dalgaard who took it all the way up to the end line and got the crosses in. As opposed to Dayon Harris doing that kind of thing that he usually does. But I do think that Dayon Harris is best utilized when he is able to come in from the wing, like I said, pick up the speed on the dribble, beating some players, and ultimately try and find a pass into the middle, or maybe even get a shot off. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that when we do get these crosses in, whether it be from Dalgaard or Leo or Dayon Harris or anybody else, I am kind of wondering if we're lacking players who are running in late. And that's, something that we saw come to almost good effect in several games here. But one player that is someone I'd like to discuss individually here and would probably be most involved in that is Zach Steinberger. Now, you highlighted Zach Steinberger within the first couple games of the season, and you mentioned that he probably wasn't the most active in the first 1 or 2 games, I think it was. And then I believe it was the game against Phoenix, if not the game right after, where he just stepped up and he had a very strong game. And we were joking around that it was maybe in response to what you said. But I think it might be the case that Zach Steinberger has gone a little quiet since then. Is that something that you have seen?
I have noticed that. And I believe it was that Phoenix game where he did step up. And then from that point, I thought to myself, well, maybe Zach Steinberger just needed a couple games under his belt to really be the guy that was seeing last season, the guy that won us that game of that brilliant goal he scored and that 1-0 win to win the Eastern Conference title. But we haven't really seen that kind of Zach Steinberger this season. Besides that Phoenix Rising game, he hasn't really been a typical number 10 you expect to. We usually people we see in a certain attacking mid position or a number 10 position. Not only is he just making passes left and right, he's also running to the box trying to get goals. He's making those creative through balls, like we see world class players like Kevin De Bruyne make or Bruno Fernandes. We see them make these kind of plays that take the team to the next level. I haven't really seen that from Zach Steinberger. If anything, I've seen that from Dos Santos, Guazzati, Leo Fernandez, Lewis Hilton. These are players that are taking a team to the next level. But Zach Steinberg has just been flying under the radar, and that might be because either just the way he plays as a number 10, just the way he thinks number 10 should play, or maybe because Neil Collins wants him to play that way. Maybe Neil Collins is telling him to don't go into the box as much. To stay outside the 18 where you could pass the ball side to side, because we see that a lot where if Fernandez can't cross the box, he lets it back to Zach Steinberger, then he switches it to the other side. But again, from your number 10, once he switches that ball to the other side, you expect him to make a run in the box or be another option for that winger or make a clever through ball. And we haven't really seen that, And I looked at the team stats on the Rowdies, stats on the USL website. He's not nowhere near in the goals, assists, chances created. So it's like you expect more from your number 10, especially for a team like Rowdies. You need players in attacking positions who could take the team to a next level, like I mentioned already. But I haven't really seen that at all from Zach Steinberger. Like I said, it could be because of Neil Collins or it could be the way he plays. But the reason why I think it's more the way he plays, because Lewis Hilton, who plays in a deeper role than Zach Steinberger, how many times, James, did we see in the game pass where he makes that run into the box or where he presses more and he makes those through balls to where, Dalgar Fernandez could get in? We see Doherty and Lewis Hilton making those number 10 plays more than what Zach Steinberger does.
Yeah, that's a good point. The late runs are more often done by somebody else. Like I said, the shot in our loss right before we went down 1-0, I believe that came from Lawrence Wyke. So that's something to think about. It's still not enough late runs into the box, but when they're being done by the person who isn't your number 10, that is also concerning. The people that I see getting on the end of these crosses that are coming in from, like I said, players like Dejan Harris, players like Sebastian Dahlgaard, it's Leo Fernandez when the ball is coming from the right side. Or if it's coming from the left side, it's often Connor Antley and Sebastian Dahlgaard. And then it's the strikers up in the middle. It's Sebastian Guenzati and it's Steven Dos Santos when he's in, or one of the other strikers. Zach Steinberger has not been involved in those, at least not enough for me. His touches are relatively low compared to the rest of the team. And when he is your number 10, that's supposed to be an influencer of a position. You need to be more involved, is what I would say anyway. But, hopefully we'll see the same kind of turnaround the last time that we mentioned his name here, and we get, some stellar performance. I would love to see that because he's obviously a very talented player and he's on the field for a reason, but we just need to see a bit more of the reason, I suppose it might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. And, like you said, there's like a lot of talented players on this team. So I think, it's not to peg back on Zach Steinberger. I know he's a talented player. I know he's someone who could create plays and make something out of nothing, but we just haven't seen it, and like I said, it comes down to two options, whether just the way he plays or the way Neil Collins wants him to play. But there's so much talent on this team where, he could, players could make him look like a real number 10 that takes the team to another level, or he could take players around him to the next level with through balls or scoring more goals. He has enough talent and chemistry on this team to, for the entire team to go to the next level. It just hasn't clicked for him yet. And This far in the season, you would think it would be going already, but it just hasn't.
Yeah, I agree. But with all that said, we've talked about several individuals one way or another. Let's get down to the real thing that we're going for here, the most important individual award. Who was your man of the match for this past game, Leo?
I think there's really only one option. You have to go with Evan Louro. Again, he's just being as crucial as he ever is, as Superman as he ever is. He's just always there when you need him, keeping the team in the game. I was close to picking Sebastian Guenzati because he did get that only goal and game-winning goal for the Rowdies, and he was a focal point whenever they would transition towards attacking towards the opponent's net. And he had an overall good game too, but I just feel like if you take out Evan Louro and put in another goalkeeper in, at least 2 or 3 go in the net. So I have to give it to Evan Louro.
All right. Well, I guess I don't get any points for being original here. So thank you, Leo, because my pick was definitely also going to be Evan Louro. I think all the things that you said are true. And he's just such a big presence back there. It kind of reminds me a little bit of there's an anecdote from the U.S. men's national team in CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers. Clint Dempsey got famous for making a face, just making a mocking face at a Jamaican player, I believe it was a couple years ago. And people would hold up big posters of his face wherever he went. And it seems that Evan Louro just has that same kind of face. He's always ready to, get in somebody's space and, make them uncomfortable and say, hey, you look into my eyes and you try and score this goal. And I think that kind of came into play, especially with the penalty there. I really like watching him, try the head games, because he definitely is someone who is very expressive, and it comes through. It's really fun to watch him.
I agree. I think expressive is the right term, because I believe it was against Phoenix Rising where he catches the ball and the player bumps into him. That he does not take that lightly. He goes literally head to head with the player. It might have been a slight headbutt in there. I'm pretty sure there was a headbutt, and he just fuming. So he doesn't shy away from a fight. He's a tough player, and just the way he plays, he looks out for his teammates. He protects that back line whenever an opponent gets through them, and he's just an assurance in that net. So just a lot of credit to Evan Louro for being so consistent and to really just keep the Rowdies in the game every single game so far this season, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that will lead us into another question that we got from Twitter. If you have any questions, please let us know you can hashtag #AskRBLR, and we will try to get to those every week. But another question we got from user Manal Patel at MP4309. Thank you for this. He asked, if you could take any player from another team in the USL and have them join the Rowdies, who would you take and why? And I think that this is something that we were just talking about. There might be a little bit of a lack of quality in certain positions on the field. Now, goalkeeper, obviously, I think we've ruled that out. That's something for me that I would say we're pretty good there. We're pretty stacked. At defense, I would say again, we're probably looking pretty stacked. We've got Lasso, Scarlett, and Guillen, two players who are on all USL championship team leagues, or league teams. I think that that's pretty good. You look at our wingbacks, I think we're pretty solid there. Connor Antley's been doing very well. Sebastian Dahlgaard is a good backup. Leo is almost at 100 appearances for the Rowdies. He's getting to club legend status. I think that he's a great player. And then you look up top, and when Duba comes back, I think that he's a very, very good player in this league. I think Sebastian Guanzati continues to prove himself every single week, where we might not see the biggest influence, for me at least, and I'm not sure if you'll agree with me here, but I think that where we're seeing the biggest lack of influence is in the center of the midfield. Zach Steinberger is someone that we've mentioned, but it's not just Zach Steinberger. It's also, at points, the people behind him with Lewis Hilton and Jan Ekra, Lawrence White. They're not always having the best games. Jordan Doherty can also, give the ball away here and there when he's put under pressure very quickly. I think that if I could take anybody in the whole of the USL Championship and bring him to the Rowdies, I would want to stabilize our midfield and put somebody who is just lights out, a top competitor there. And for me, that would be Bruno Lapa from the Birmingham Legion. I think that he is a very good player in the number 10 role. He was going to be drafted into MLS when he got out of college. He went to Wake Forest, but the problem with that is when you are a foreign player coming into MLS from college, you have to earn your foreign roster status. So you're only allotted in MLS a certain number of foreign-born and foreign-raised players. And I don't think that Bruno Lapa convinced anybody that he was of quality to deserve one of those spots. However, since then in the USL Championship, he has 7 goals in 16 appearances, and those are all from the midfield. That's a very good rate, even if you're a striker. I think that anybody right now would be itching to take him if he had the right passport, so to speak. That's something that would really have greased the wheels on him moving to MLS. But yeah, I think that he would be a good pickup for the Rowdies midfield. Is that something that you would? Is that something you might agree with, Leo?
I would definitely agree with that. Right now, if we're talking about right now, I would take a striker more than a center attacking mid. Because, Zach Steinberger, although he hasn't been performing the level we want him to, you have players who could take a spot, like Lewis Hilton could fill up for the lack that Zach Steinberger is currently going through. But, I would agree with you. If the team's fully fit, I would take someone to replace Zach Steinberger. And although I don't know who I will put in for Zach, or who I would take from another team to put in the Rowdies team for Zach Steinberger, I do know who I would take for, currently who I would take up top for, to fill up that role that Duba had before he got injured. And for that matter, if we're talking about like right now who to put in this team, I would go with Santiago Patino from San Antonio FC. He has 5 goals this season. He was a former MLS player with Orlando City, and actually got seen play for Orlando City a couple times. And he's just a big body presence. I see some of his games this season with San Antonio FC, and he reminds me of Duba. He's not the fastest, but he is one of the most physical players out there. He's good with the ball on his feet. He can hold up the play. And if you have someone like that, who's basically a like for Dos Santos on this Rowdies team, it'll be like it'll feel like the way the Rowdies started out the season. A 5-0. So right now, the reason why we're going through a shaky form is because we have still yet to find someone who could replace Duba in that role. We tried Jordan Adebayo Smith. He wasn't really living up to the billing, although he's still fairly young. We tried Deon Harris, but that was more of a counterattack play. If you want to be more of an attacking team and possess the ball, I think someone like Santiago Patino could really help the Rowdies right now.
That's something that I also took into consideration, because obviously it has been the case that since Duba went out with his injury, we've had a little bit more struggles up top, I would say. But, that's fair enough. I think that you could probably do well one way or another. So thank you for that question. And like I said, listeners, please let us know. You can hashtag that AskRBLR, and we will try to take as many as we can for you over the course of our upcoming podcasts. This is one other thing, though. We definitely should have talked about this earlier in the season. This is not the first time. But how are you liking these away jerseys?
I'm actually liking them a lot. They really stand out on the broadcast TV. I just feel like it might just be me, but these jerseys seem like they give the Rowdies extra energy. It might be that Volt color, but I really do like it. I'm pretty sure teams playing against us when we're wearing those highlight jerseys, they're probably thinking like, damn, those are really nice jerseys, and they look good on the players, and also the white ones. They look professional, classy, all white. I like it. But so far, as much as I like the home jerseys, the classic yellow and green, I equally just like the away and the alternate jerseys this season.
Yeah, I think that the factor of standing out on the field is very important. I've been watching Rowdies games with a bunch of different people over the course of this season so far, when they are staying with me at my grandmother's house, or when I'm back at my house for those times that I have been. And it's definitely the case that a lot of people talk about it. So I like it. I like that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, this is going to take us to our hot take of the week. And we introduced this last week, where James and I, we say something that most people may not agree with, but it just has to be said. So for my hot take of the week, is if we mentioned it earlier already, but if the Rowdies are to continue winning games and go on a winning run or getting results to stay in first place, and this is assuming that Neil Collins will not change his formation, as we've seen in the last podcast where I was hinting for a change of formation, but Neil Collins didn't. The Rowdies are going to have to play annoying and unattractive football. And this means that they're going to have to stay back, let the other team possess, let the other team be the more quote-unquote dominant team. And the Rowdies are going to have to, take it. They're going to have to counter, make the most out of the times at possessions, like they did in that 1-0 win against Hartford. And, and I feel like on Saturday night, if the Rowdies were that team with more possession, they would have not won that game. And I say that because we've seen when Rowdies did have possession and then they lost the ball, those long balls over the top from Hartford almost ended up in goals. Now imagine that for a whole 90 minutes. Hartford would have got themselves a couple of goals. And so that's why if Rowdies have to continue winning, they have to play unattractive football. And what's your hot take of the week, James?
Well, I think yours I think yours might tick a few people off at the Rowdies, but that's okay. That's kind of what we're here for. Mine also might tick a couple of people off because my hot take is just going to be I want to see us play with four at the back at some point. I would like to see what this team looks like when they do that. Maybe Aaron Guillen moves to a more traditional left back role, or maybe one of our center backs just takes a little break. But at some point, I think that we're going to have to, just because of the amount of games that we're going to have to play. If they're going to put somebody who's played at fullback, or maybe they're going to play somebody who's played in the center midfield into the back three so that it can stay a back three, then I guess that's Neil Collins' prerogative, obviously. But that's something that I would like to see. And, there are plenty of teams that we can kind of experiment with because it's a season where we play four teams in our division 4 different times. But, whether or not it ever comes to be, I guess we shall see. Right now, I can't say that that's probably likely, but we're still winning games. So, I can't really complain. As long as we keep winning games, we're going to stay in first place as we are. Going through the standings now, we are in first in the Atlantic Division. We've got 21 points from 9 games. Pittsburgh are the closest team to us. They are in second place with 17 points. They have played 10 games. So we also have a game in hand on them, and that is good for us. We also remain first in the Eastern Conference. Birmingham Legion, that team with Bruno Lapa that I mentioned, they sit in second behind us with 19 points from 10 games. Also another game more than us. So that's still pretty good. And that will take us into our last part here. We are playing Charleston Battery. And Leo, can you tell us some more about this game coming up?
Yeah, so this game, it's on Friday, July 3rd at 7:30 p.m. It's a home game. Oh, everyone always loves home games. But Charleston are currently 6th in the Atlantic Division, which is also, the division that we, the Rowdies, play in. And in 7 games, they have 3 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. And from those games, they only gained 11 points. So 11 points from 7 games. And they also played 2 games. They also played 2 games less than the Rowdies. And although they have 11 points from 7 games, that may seem, not good for a team. But in their last 5 games, they only have 1 loss. So that's something to consider for Neil Collins approaching this game. And speaking about approaching this game, we have we have a Twitter question here from @Fat7Deuce. Mike Pendleton asks, there was a professional win this weekend, but against a team much more willing to open up. Charleston might be the opposite, especially on the road, and will look likely to sit and counter. What do we need to adapt from the Pittsburgh-Charlotte losses, which was a similar style where teams sat back and hit on the counter, to get a better result? Do you want to go ahead first on this one, James?
Well, what I would say is, especially from the Pittsburgh game, I think that the Charlotte game, it's kind of hard to take as many lessons as we want because one thing that Neil Collins talked about after that game was over in the press conference, he said that, there really weren't very many positives to take from that game. And, that's fair enough. I thought, and he seemed to agree with me when we spoke about it, that Pittsburgh was a better game, even though we lost. It was better played by the Rowdies throughout. So I think that we can take a little bit more from there. And, we definitely need to make sure that if they're a team that's going to sit back like Charleston probably will be, as you said, we need to, be as sharp as we can when we are on defense, because the thing when you have possession for a long stretch in the game, if you happen to give up the ball, it's going to be a lot harder to get yourself back into position such that you can properly block any shots or set yourself up to make sure that they don't even get into the position where they can take those shots. I would like to see that we maintain the sharpness of our defensive unit and our defensive structure throughout the whole game so that we can minimize their chances to actually score. Now, how do we score then? If they're all bunkering the way that Charleston might and Pittsburgh did, I think that one thing that is important is to get some individual quality to break players up and actually open up some space. If you can get a player out there who's going to bring a lot of defenders in on him, so he's, going on the dribble and several players need to step in to close him down at a time. If they're stepping to the player with the ball, that means they're leaving their player who they were marking behind. And hopefully the player, whoever it is dribbling, can pass it through them and hit the man that is now open because the defender stepped up to the guy while he was on the ball. And I think that Dayon Harris has proven his ability to do that recently. What I would like to see is Dayon Harris getting into good positions. So maybe he is not the top 2 player in a formation. We usually play with a 3-5-1-2, and if we keep putting Harris there, it might limit his ability to go on these mazy runs that will open up space for other players. And that's what I hope he will actually get to do. If that's not the case, then, it might have to come from somewhere else that we see this individual quality that will hopefully open up the field, like I said, for other players. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Now, for structural stuff, like I said, you have to put yourself in good positions when you're backing up defensively to try and minimize their chances of getting a good shot off. And that starts at the very front. So that will start with the attackers, whoever they may be, whether it's Seba and Dayon Harris or Seba and Jordan Adebayo Smith or whoever, and Zach Steinberger sitting behind them. They have to make sure that they are in good positions to defend even as they approach with the ball, so that if they lose it, they are already there to try and block off any quick counters. That will be important throughout, and I hope that the chances that we create will be sufficient to put us in a good position, and then we won't have to worry as much about defense if we're already up 1-2-0, whatever it may be. But you would also obviously want to make sure that the defensive sharpness, as I said, is top notch throughout the game, and that will be hard to maintain. But that's the standard that these Rowdies players have shown us they can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen it where they just have to be disciplined in that back line. And I agree with you. Getting players where they could dribble and put defenders out, that might be key to winning this game. But approaching this game, I believe that the first goal is going to be very, very crucial in this game. Although Charleston might be sitting in 6th place right now, they could make things difficult for Rowdies, as we've seen before, and other teams who are ranked lower than the Rowdies. They do make things difficult for this team. So what I would say is that if the Rowdies want to be an attacking team, they gotta change up a formation. I highly doubt it that's gonna happen. But if they were to change up a formation, I will play a 4-2-3-1. So your center, obviously Evan Louro will be in goal, and your center backs will be Lasso and Scarlett. You have Aaron Guillen, as you mentioned earlier, in that traditional left back role. You'll put Connor Antley on that right back role, and your center defensive mids will be Hilton and Jordan Doherty. Zach Steinberger, that number 10 role. And then you'll have either Dalgard or Dayon Harris on that right mid role, and then obviously Leo Fernandez on the left side. And up top you have Sebastian Gonzalez. That way, when you want to attack, you can have your fullbacks join the attack, such as Aaron Guillen and Connor Antley. But what you do is that when you have defensive mids, when you see your fullbacks attacking, your defensive mids can drop towards their position. That if they try to hit you on a counter, you still have a back four. So it'll be like a 2v4 or 3v4. But you'll have the extra man to prevent a counterattack or any serious threat. Like I said, that's very unlikely to happen. So if they're going to continue playing that 3-4-1-2 formation, and we know Charleston's not going to want to possess because they'll be open, they'll have spaces for the Rowdies to play on. They lose the ball. So I think to win against a team who, let's be honest, they're going to sit back and look to counter. You have to spread them out, continue that side-to-side play, but make it quicker, instead of 2 touches, make it 1 touch, make it quick. And maybe, instead of spreading out wide, have Dayon Harris or Dalgard or Antley or whoever starts on the right-hand side or Leo Fernandez on the left-hand side, instead of just spreading out wide, they'll make those early runs inside the box. That way you're closer to the goal. Gonzalez is going to be wherever you need him to be when you look up. And whether it's Dayon Harris or Jordan Adebayo Smith starting up top, as long as you put more deliveries in the box, you're going to get a goal. So if you want that first goal, continue that side-to-side play, but make the passes faster and sharper and not start off sloppy. If you start off sloppy, it's going to take you a while to get a rhythm in the game, and Charleston will notice that. So for me, that first goal is going to be crucial, and I think to get that, to approach the game and getting that first goal, you need to continue side-to-side play, but make it faster and sharper.
Yeah, I agree that crucial first goal is very important in any game, because it means that the team, whichever it is that gave it up, they will be chasing. And, we have seen what that comes to for the Rowdies sometimes. Mm-hmm. But before we move on to our predictions, the one thing that I wanted to highlight very quickly was some players to keep an eye out for on Charleston. We try to do this, obviously, and make sure that everybody knows where their strong points are going to be each week. Stavros Zarakostas is the first player that I would like to highlight. Last year, Charleston was the thorn in our side. So far, they haven't really proven themselves capable of that this year, but there's no time like the present for any team to try and turn their fortunes around. I think that Stavros Zarakostas is somebody who, in particular, was very damaging to the Rowdies' defense. He scored a couple of very important goals, and that's somebody that we're going to need to watch out for coming in on the wing and off the dribble, kind of in the same way that Dayon Harris does. Zico Lewis is another attacking player who likes to sit a little bit more, although he is, a shorter and skilled player. He just isn't one of those ones that you might see making the mazy dribbling runs that Zarakostas does. And then Nicu Daly is one of their strikers. He's Jamaican. He's a very good forward, and he's scored a lot of goals. And they've made a couple new signings since the season started, including defender Patrick Hogan. He's a local guy to their area. Angelo Kelly is a player they had, but Joel Bunting is one of the players I actually wanted to highlight along with Claudio Repetto. So those are two new signings that they've had and people that we don't have the best idea on how they will affect this team at this point. But somebody to, a couple players to keep an eye out on. And then the last one that I wanted to mention was Mauro Suchero. He is a tall forward / midfielder, so he will often work between the target man role. He's 6'3", or the number 10 role, and he'll drop in a little deeper and kind of try to create for the attackers around him. Those are both players, or he is a player that I think in two roles, I should say, in both roles, he can do some damage, and I think that we'll have to keep an eye out for him. But that's what it's looking like right now against Charleston. And with that all out of the way now, I would like to get us into our actual predictions. Leo, I want you to go first this time because I need to build up to it, is what I'm going to say. I need to build up to mine and see if what you are thinking is maybe a little too far from what I had in mind, and maybe I'll change mine at the last minute. But what are you thinking here?
That's smart. That's smart tactic, James. I respect that. I think, like I said, they're not going to play a 4-2-3-1. They're going to stick with 3-5-2, and they're going to build off that win. They're going to know that they're back to being the Rowdies that wins games, and they're playing in front of a home crowd. And the fireworks is going to make a difference. So I think I'm predicting a 2-0 win for the Rowdies.
Okay, well. What I was going to say is a 2-0 win for the Rowdies.
Should have went first.
So yeah, I should have gone first. Now I'm stuck. So, if you've already gone with that, then I'm going to switch mine up. You know what? I'm just going to say let's go 3-0. No. Hold on, 3-1. Let's be a little safe. 3-1 win. So that is what I will. That's what I'm gonna have to predict now because I already threw mine away and let you go first. Yeah, I'm not so sure how well the strategy worked out in the end, but
we have a producer over here where he's predicting a 4-0 win for the Rowdies.
4-0. Well, hey, I would take that. That would be a great way to get 3 points for the league. That's where we are for the season. And then there's one last thing here. We have a couple little notes that are separate from the Rowdies game and separate from the Rowdies, tactics and that kind of discussion. What have you got for us, Leo?
So I'm pretty sure most people might have heard this by now, but Raiko Arozarena, our backup goalie, got called up to the Cuban national team for the Gold Cup qualifiers. So it's really amazing when you have an international player getting caught up for their country, and it's even more amazing when it's for the Rowdies. We've seen it with Juan Tejada with the Panama team, and it just shows that Rowdies are bringing in players that are getting caught up to their national team. It's a really cool thing to celebrate. And
absolutely, I personally love international soccer. It is it brings out some passion in me because, nationalism can get dangerous, but the good thing about sports nationalism is it really doesn't mean anything. Sports are ultimately, not that important to society other than, fans and having stuff up on your wall maybe, but you're not going to go to war over soccer for the most part. So this is the good way that you can be nationalist and wave your flags and all that kind of stuff. I really love watching international soccer, and when players get called up, and everybody who has done it describes it the way that they get to hear their national anthem, and when you're wearing the crest and representing your country, that is the ultimate goal. And I'm just so excited for the guy. I hope he gets to play every game.
Me too. It's a really proud moment for Arrows Arena and all of Rowdies fans. I'm pretty sure Neil Collins has a smile on his face. Although Arrows Arena hasn't really seen any minute at all on the field, he's happy for him, and I'm pretty sure Arrows Arena, he's gonna make the most of his opportunity. And another thing I want to mention is that this Friday, if you're attending the game this Friday, there will be a fireworks post-game show. So it's not a bad way to kick off your 4th of July weekend. Like I said, the game's this Friday at 7:30. After the game, a win, draw, or tie, hopefully a win, there will be fireworks for fans to enjoy. So, tickets are on sale right now, single game tickets. So I highly recommend that you go to this game and have fun. And like I said, just to kick off your 4th of July weekend the right way.
Well, I'm going to try and get my family out there, and so I hope to see a lot more fans too.
That's smart, Gene. That's smart. But that's gonna do it for this episode of RBLR Rowdies here on RBLR Sports. And once again, listeners, thank you for your time. And don't forget to follow RBLR Sports at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And also, if you have any questions for James and I regarding the Rowdies, whether it's a recent game or just anything in general about the Rowdies, you can always tweet us at RBLR Sports, or just use the hashtag AskRBLR, and we'll be sure to get to it. And also, make sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and other major podcast platforms. And like I said, thank you, listeners, for your time. And as always, come on, you Rowdies, and let's go, Rowdies.
Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.